Hey folks, Jeff and Lorena here at Back to Country. Today we had to fabricate a new panel for our transmission on our dump truck. What an adventure it's been. Anyway, you can see that sucker's pretty rusted out. We tried to get a new one and they don't make them anymore. It's a 2000 model. You'd think they should, but they don't. So, off we go to fabricate one. First thing we did was made a cardboard cutout and drew that on the spot, and then took a piece of 16 gauge steel and used our cutout to lay out the design. Once we got it laid out, then of course we had to cut it out. So I just used a standard cut-off wheel on a grinder and went to it. We sped this up so as not to bore you too much with all the slow video of just cutting, but you get the picture. There ain't really much to it, just kind of working that cut-off wheel through there. I'm sure that if you do it all the time, you make much better, more skilled cuts than me, but bottom line is we got her done. Actually, was even able to make some rounded cuts there on the corners that worked out just fine. So once we got it all cut out and everything, of course we took a grinder and smoothed off the edges and stuff so it wouldn't cut your hand. Then I took the old one and I had to remove the boot from it so that we could draw that square in the middle for the transmission to fit through. So I just ground out the old rusted screws. They use just self-tapping screws to drill through there and screw that in. Ground them out and then used a punch to knock them out the rest of the way. And once we got them out, then we put it down and basically drew out the design. Nothing real difficult here. This is all the easy stuff, really. It gets more exciting as you go along, and we had to do some creative bending. So once we got the layout drawn again, back to the cutting wheel to cut it out. Now I couldn't cut those corners without tearing it all up, so I just cut the straight edges with the cutting wheel. Once I got that done, then I went to the scroll saw, put a metal blade on it, and finished out the corners. That actually worked out pretty well. Probably could have done the whole darn thing with the scroll blade, but why wear out a blade? The cut-off wheel worked just fine. Of course, once we were able to get that knocked out, then it was on to the next deal. Of course, out here in the country, we don't have a big metal brake to do bends and stuff, so you got to get creative, and we used the bulldozer blade and the hydraulics from that to lay down a 4x4 there. Went back and forth. The first press was the hardest, just trying to get everything lined up perfect. I just used a marker and put a couple lines where the bend was on the original. Used that to kind of gauge where I wanted to put pressure. Got the blade for the dozer all lined up and then started pressing. Of course, we went back and forth quite a few times, bending and then checking it, bending and checking it. Like I say, the first time the biggest challenge was just getting it lined up right and trying to make sure that the bend we put in it was where we wanted it. I couldn't imagine messing that up and put it in the wrong location, but right out of the gate, I mean, it fit pretty close. I had to stand on it to flex it into position. So back we are to bend some more. But we knew at that point we're on the right track. Everything was coming into place pretty good. So again, it was just 3 or 4 times of back and forth. Place it in there again. Closer, but not yet. And back to press it a little more. Now this final time that we pressed it, we actually pushed it a little bit too far, and all I did was turn it over and stand on it and apply a little pressure, and it flexed right back to not quite far enough. So then we took the ball peen hammer and started working it a little bit to take some of that stress out of the seal and get it into our final position. It really didn't take too much to pound it and work back and forth and get our edges how we wanted them before it finally just lined up perfect. And there's the final right there. Of course, we're going to put some foam strip in between and then screw it down with self tappers, and it'll be just fine. Thanks for watching. God bless.